Back now, my special guest, Ron Paul. Let me ask you this. You've lived through many American military conflicts in your lifetime, since the early part of last century. How many of them do you believe were justified?
Well, justified plus legal.
Well, people assume you're a pacifist. I don't get the feeling you are a pacifist.
No, I'm not a pacifist.
I think you believe in military action where it is legitimate. But how many do you think of the major conflicts have been legitimate?
Well, from a strict constitutional viewpoint, I don't want to fight any wars that aren't declared. So that means since World War II, nothing has been justified because we didn't go through the proper process. But when you look back...
Didn't you support the conflict in Afghanistan?
I did, but that said to go after only those individuals responsible for 9/11, not to go into nation building, not going in, into Iraq.
It was war, wasn't it?
To go after Al-Qaeda, it was going after criminals. Matter of fact, at the time, what I did was...
Was it constitutional?
Well, yes, to a degree, because it was limited. But what I introduced was a resolution to clarify this. Don't turn it into an excuse to go into country and occupy countries and take over countries and go into nation building. I said, look to our history about the letter of marque and reprisal. When you're attacked, say at Pearl Harbor, in a declared war, that's certainly legitimate. Even though we had a declaration of war in World War I, it was a constitutional war, but it was a very foolish adventure.
What is the ideological difference between being attacked in Pearl Harbor and being attacked at the World Trade Center? I mean, if you are
But a country didn't attack. A bunch of thugs attacked us, not a country. So there's a big difference. There were probably the people, I imagine, and there weren't even 100 people that knew 9/11 was coming. Maybe there were 50, maybe there were 40 for all we know. So it was a band of thugs that had a grievance with us, and they were trying to get our attention. So that's entirely different than...
Have you modified your opinion of what the motivation was? And the reason I ask, you got a lot of flack at the time, although a lot of support as well, for suggesting that the main motivation for the attacks was revenge for what had been going on in Iraq. And I'm sure a lot of it was. But you also said that you didn't believe it was an anti-West sentiment, an anti-riches, an anti-capitalism. I'm not sure that's true, is it? I mean, it's certainly, if you were to interview the 9/11 attackers, I'm pretty damn sure they would also say, we are against Western values, we are against capitalism and so on.
There's no evidence to that. If you read Robert Pape and Michael Schur, you'll find out they're pretty much the experts on this subject, and that's not their conclusion. But if you look at the 9/11 Commission, if you look at the DOD studies, if you look at the CIA, even if you look at what Paul Wolfowitz has said, the great neocon, they've come to the conclusion that our presence in the Middle East was the most significant event on why they wanted to come here and kill us.
And let's assume you become President Ron Paul. If Iran was to strike back at Israel, what would you do?
Well, I'd go and look to the rules, and the rules are that if our national security is threatened, you explain it to the people, and then you go to the Congress and say, is our national security threatened to such a degree that we declare war against a particular country?
If you believed that Iran had enough enriched uranium to genuinely launch a nuclear attack against Israel, would that knowledge alone mean that you would countenance military action?
One thing that we should set aside is there's our CIA and the Mossad. Israel are not arguing that they have the case, and even Israel said, the leader of the Mossad said, even if they had a weapon, it's not an existential threat to them.
So you wouldn't ever countenance any preemptive strike?
No, not really. Why should we? That's aggression. We're not supposed to commit aggression. I mean, that's left for the dictators. But, we now don't do aggression, but what we do is preemptive war.
But if you had got knowledge...
Preemptive war is equivalent to that, and I think it's very dangerous.
But they have already said, Ahmadinejad has made it quite clear he believes in wiping out Israel, if he got the chance.
Okay.
If you were president in the Second World War, and you'd been given knowledge the Japanese were planning Pearl Harbor, you would have preemptively struck, wouldn't you?
Well, let me touch your first subject first, and that is quoting Ahmadinejad, because that's a misquote, but 99% of the people in the media would misquote it, and everybody in Washington believes it. What he actually said on the proper interpretation was that the regime in charge of Jerusalem should be removed from the pages of time. He did not say that Israel should be wiped from the face of the earth. Just think of the difference on that, removing a regime like getting rid of our administration or something.
You're not seriously defending Ahmadinejad, are you?
I'm trying to defend honesty, and I'm trying to defend openness, and willing to stop a war. Just
Do you see him as a threat?
Please
Is he
let
a
me
threat
finish
to
my
America?
sentence. Just like John Kennedy was able to talk to Khrushchev. If we can talk to Khrushchev and he had 30,000 missiles, why can't we talk to a country that doesn't have a nuclear missile? And they are not, according to the record, they're not on the verge
reason
of
I'm
it
pushing
either.
on this is a lot of Americans who, may like you personally or whatever, but they think you're weak on this because of the preemptive issue. And I come back to that question I put to you. If you had knowledge and you were president when Pearl Harbor happened, if you had pre-knowledge of that happening, would you have attacked Japan?
An imminent attack. We're seeing the planes come over. Obviously, yes. An imminent attack.
Well, I mean intelligence.
An imminent attack.
It may happen.
An imminent attack is quite different when the planes are coming versus this fiction. We shouldn't have such short memories. Everything they're saying about Iran, we said about Iraq, and they were all lies. And how many men died? 8,500 Americans died. 44,000
I
come back
totally agree with you about Iraq.
But it's the same principle.
As a newspaper editor,
deal with it in the principle.
As a newspaper editor back in Britain, I opposed the war in Iraq vigorously and loudly for 2 years.
You should oppose us going into Iran.
I think Iran is a different situation.
Why?
Because I think that they would, if they could, consider attacking Israel. And if you're America, you can't let that happen. And the Israelis are looking to America for leadership, aren't they?
Why shouldn't they depend on the British? Why doesn't the British take care of them? They have a lot of influence up there. Let all the British kids go over there and die. I mean, why is it assumed that we are the policemen of the world, that it's our moral obligation? Besides, we're broke.
But aren't there times when you have to be the policeman of the world?
No.
Really?
It is not. We provide for our national security. We do not have the authority. We do not have the money, and we don't have the moral authority to do this because it leads to trouble.
Let's take a break. Come back and talk social issues. I want to talk to you about marriage, gay marriage, abortion. See what you really think.